the very meaning of this presentation is to show that actually there are strong reasons, both for the Hispanics and the Anglos, to feel brothers, because this presentation will show what are these ties existing between Hispanics on one side and Anglos on the other side. There are the same ties that there are between Italians, who are the super Latinos because they come directly from the Romans, and Spaniards, who also are Latino. The language comes, as we will see here tonight, from the language of the Romans. I have dedicated myself to putting together this presentation with a particular interest because of the importance of HESI. President Ramirez was mentioning the great aim of this organization in helping young Hispanics in their future careers, in their business enterprises. And I was very happy to attend the other meeting in which were shown iconic examples of great Hispanics who were able actually to achieve great results in their careers and to become role models for our young people. But in effect, I have also put together another topic that I understood was of great interest to President Ramirez. He was immediately interested in knowing something about the origin of the Spanish language, so that I decided to combine together these two topics. The one you see there, that say the Spanish contribution to the legendary conquest of the Far West, and also the history of the, a very short history of the Spanish language. And many actually will wonder why I have chosen to speak about the conquest of the Far West, that with the passing of time actually has become legendary. Our country, the United States, actually, looking back, have an history that is not as lengthy as the history of Greece, as the history of Rome, that is 1,000 years old. But we too, Americans, have our own legendary past, and this, for our country, is actually the history of the conquest of Far West. And it is important to notice that this is not important only for the Americans, but also for the Europeans like me, who actually lived during the years that actually came after World War II, when Europe actually came out of the destructions of World War II, and when actually we started, the young people, especially like me, started to identify, first of all, in the American GIs, and then in the American cowboy, like a sort of guardian angel that would free us from the oppression of the fears that we had during the period of Nazism, and the new fear that was coming in Europe for the danger represented to Western Europe by communism. And so that this guardian angel that we used to see faithfully on the big screen in black and white, and then in color later on, of the cowboy, actually gave us hopes in a new, free, and democratic world, and actually helped us to go through those difficult years. But let's begin now to examine the history of the language of Spain and of the vast, great Hispanic world. Spanish or Espanol, or Castellano, is a language that originated in, is a Romance language, let's say a language coming from Latin, from the language of the Romans. It originated in northern Spain, and it spread through the Kingdom of Castile, and then evolved actually gradually in a principal language of government and trade of the Kingdom of Castile. Later on, actually, it was brought to Africa, to the Americas, to Asia, to the Pacific, with the expansion of the Spanish Empire between the 15th and the 19th century. So Spanish evolved from Vulgar Latin. Vulgar means the Latin of the late empire. And you see here a few pictures that represent locations in Spain that are rich in Roman monuments. You see there, for example, the famous aqueducts that are still used today, that still give water since the period the Romans built it, which meant that actually the Romans were also great engineers. And the Spanish language was influenced also by Arabic during the Andalusian period. It was influenced by the Basque and Celtiberian, and attention, because this is important, also by some Germanic languages of the Visigoths, so this tribe of Germanic origin that actually gave a little influence to the Spanish language. So that Spanish has some ties, linguistic ties, with the Germanic dialects, from which comes also English. We see at first place of contact. The typical features of the Spanish phonology of the pronunciation include these phenomena that are shared also by other languages coming from Latin. One of these is the so-called lenition, that is to say the weakening of some consonants, as for example in the Latin word vita, that means life, and that in Spanish becomes vida, with a D that is actually weaker in comparison with the Latin T, vita. Then we have the phenomenon of palatalization, that is to say a phenomenon that consists in using the language in contact with the palate. We have this when we have, for example, the Latin word annum, that means a year, that in Spanish becomes año, and in anellum, ring, that in Spanish becomes anillo, the sound y, that is the palatalization of the double L of Latin. We have also the phenomenon of diphthongation, that is to say, a simple, short E and O of Latin becomes actually a diphthong, as for example in the Latin terra, land, that becomes tierra. And we have novus, new, that in Spanish becomes nuevo. The same phenomenon, we have it in the other languages that come from Latin. For example, Italian is nuovo, same phenomenon. Or in French, we have, for example, nouveau, nouvelle, that is actually also here another diphthong that comes from Latin. The first grammar of the Spanish language from Latin, La Grammatica della Lingua Castellana, was written in Salamanca, the center of culture, of universitary culture in Spain, in 1492, the same year of the that is given as the official discovery of America by our Italian Christopher Columbus. And the author of this grammar was this glottologist of the period, Elio Antonio de Nebrija, who actually, when he was done with this work of actually putting together a first grammar of the Spanish language, presented it to the Queen Isabel de Castilla. You see her over there? Okay? And Isabel de Castilla actually had a reaction that is not really to be considered too much interested in culture, because she said, actually, what do I want a work like this for? I already know the Spanish language. But Elio Antonio de Nebrija answered her, Your Highness, the language is the instrument of the empire. That is to say, he had already understood that one of the tools in the hands of people who want to exercise an influence on other people is actually